Part 1. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 1. Today is the first day of school. The lowly girls who have just left elementary school have become mature bodies and will enter the complete body in 3 years. As for whether they can super-evolve into the ultimate body, this, I'm afraid it depends on fate. People are always full of fear of unfamiliar environments, especially for first-year middle school students who have just entered a new environment. Therefore, in the first class, the teacher will not tell any boring content at all, but will ask each student to introduce themselves. Among countless anime, the people sitting in the last row of seats near the window in the classroom are definitely people with stories. He or she always has an unspeakable mysterious aura about him or her, which will enhance the feelings of the opposite sex. It is 200% attractive and will produce wonderful and unpredictable results over time. As for whether it is a hug or a hatchet, it all depends on the individual's luck. Takahashi Makoto, this is my current name. My soul actually comes from the celestial dynasty in the parallel world, also called Takahashi Makoto. In my previous life, I was a white-collar worker with otaku attributes, living a life of eating and waiting to die. There is a goddess I have been secretly in love with for many years. Unexpectedly, after I just confessed my love, I fell asleep before receiving a reply. When I woke up, I found that I had traveled through time. I had not traveled to the world of magic and fighting spirit, and had not been reborn and returned to the past. But I traveled to a parallel world. Ahem, I'm sorry, my 20-year-old soul is still not used to Takahashi Makoto's 13-year-old body. The friends in the class were all shocked when they heard Takahashi Makoto introduce himself like this. Teacher Sato shook his head helplessly, looked at the expressionless Takahashi Makoto sitting down, and said with some hesitation, "Well, Takahashi-san has a very rich imagination, which is worth learning from all of us. But Takahashi-san, could you please introduce yourself a little formally? Your self-introduction just now seems a bit. Since you ask sincerely, teacher, I will say it again with great mercy." Makoto Takahashi looked aggrieved and looked like he was being wronged. My name is Makoto Takahashi. I am a man who likes girls. I like anime. I love playing games, I can play the piano and draw, I can cook spicy food, I love eating fish and meat, and I can defeat little monsters. Oh, by the way, I have a search engine in my brain that can connect to parallel worlds. Internet, in a sense, I am a god living on the shoulders of giants, above. This time the teachers and classmates were already petrified. Teacher Sato actually wanted Makoto Takahashi to introduce himself in a normal way like other classmates. Makoto Takahashi was very successful at first, but later on he became weird. Self-introduction is actually very simple, but it is very important, because everyone will have the first impression. Once people establish a certain understanding of other people or things, they will develop a certain paranoid mentality. For example, world classmate, a girl who looks very cheerful and optimistic, brazenly picked up the knife in his hand and cheated on her when a certain Makoto, this Makoto is not Makoto Takahashi, Takahashi Makoto strongly requested the author to change his name, was a scumbag. My boyfriend was completely cut into pieces or something. Teacher Sato had a headache. A woman's intuition and the teacher's sixth sense told her that Makoto Takahashi would probably be the most thorny student she would ever encounter in her career. Seeing the students around him looking completely sideways, Teacher Sato wanted to ask, can Mr. Takahashi Makoto still communicate normally? Can you still have fun? In fact, Teacher Sato and his classmates mistakenly blamed Makoto Takahashi for all this. Brother Cheng will commit suicide if he doesn't change his name. Well, what Mr. Makoto Takahashi said is completely true. This guy is really a celestial traveler from a parallel world. The cause of the incident was that classmate Makoto Takahashi confessed to the goddess he had been in love with for a long time. He wanted to try to upgrade from spare tire to backup. What a humble feeling. After waiting anxiously all night, he couldn't handle a large group of people. The god of sleep attacked and fell into sleep, and then, there was no more. After Makoto Takahashi woke up, he found that the world had changed. After 9 years of hell-like torture and 4 years of decadence, I finally entered society after all the hardships. But when I woke up, I found that I was a junior high school student again and had to do it again. This sense of gap, I guess only some people can, a primary school student, understand this. Does this world still have meaning? Lord of the Earth, just open your arms and welcome the end of the world happily. Oh haha, Takahashi Makoto is a very interesting person. A little blue-haired loli squinted her eyes and whispered to herself. Takahashi Makoto's two-part self-introduction successfully made the atmosphere in the class very awkward. Teacher Sato complained secretly, but she couldn't say anything. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I don't want to. As a qualified class teacher, Mr. Sato has some information about every student in the class. Makoto Takahashi lost his parents in a car accident. Although he still has a grandfather, Ishine Takahashi, the relationship between Makoto Takahashi and Ishine Takahashi is not very good, otherwise he would not live in someone else's house now. Maybe his behavior was just to hide it. Thinking back on Takahashi Makoto's admission information, Mr. Sato's eyes became softer when he looked at Takahashi Makoto. Okay, after hearing the introduction of Makoto Takahashi, the students must have some understanding of Makoto Takahashi. Let's continue. Teacher Sato quickly changed the subject, and at the same time withdrew his gaze from Makoto Takahashi. Otherwise she would definitely see Makoto Takahashi curling his lips in displeasure. Hey, when we tell the truth, why doesn't anyone take it seriously? It doesn't matter if I don't take it seriously, but why are they all looking at me as if they are looking at the middle-aged boy? We are still only first-year junior high school students, and we are not yet at the age where we have the second-grade disease. What's with those looks in your eyes? Makoto Takahashi lay on the table extremely depressed. There were so many things to complain about and he no longer knew how to continue. According to the language spoken by the students around him, it should be an island country, but Makoto Takahashi knows very well that this is not the island country in his previous life at all. It has a new name, called Dongjo, and it belongs to Zhongzhou. Similar to the island country in Makoto Takahashi's previous life, Dongzhou's animation industry in this world is very developed. Although it is affiliated with Zhongzhou, Dongzhou's animation is still world-class. Classic masterpieces such as Detective Conan, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, etc. still exist, but compared to previous lives, the progress is much slower. In Conan, His Highness Ai has not yet appeared, Ichigo has just learned the swastika, Naruto has just lost his good friend Sasuke, and Luffy and his group have just met Robin. I feel resentful. I wonder if I will be able to see the completion of the above comics in my lifetime. Takahashi Makoto remembered that before time travel, a certain Shinigami elementary school student had indirectly killed hundreds of people. Judging from this progress, the difference between his previous life and his previous life was not even a fraction. My name is Kudo Shinichi. I like mystery novels, and the person I admire most is Sherlock Holmes. I hope to become a great detective in the future. A young man's self-introduction made many people in the class uproar. Makoto Takahashi was no exception. He looked up and saw Shota, who was introducing himself. It can't be such a coincidence, right? To be able to be in the same class as a primary school student who is the god of death, should I say he is lucky? Or did you never expect it? Don't look at me like that. Young Shoten named Kudo Shinichi also noticed that the atmosphere in the class was a bit strange, and scratched his head in embarrassment. Although I have the same name, I am not that manga the protagonist among them. Looking at Kudo Shinichi, who was a little embarrassed, Takahashi Makoto shook his head silently. Sure enough, they were not the same person. According to the description in the anime, the little devil who was reincarnated by the god of death really likes to be in the limelight, but look at the little Shota in front of him. His aura and thickness of face are not on the same level at all. If the appearance of Kudo Shinichi surprised many people in the class, then the girl who introduced herself next really made Takahashi Makoto extremely speechless. My name is Izumi Sanfang, the blue-haired girl is very cheerful and has a nice voice. I like the two-dimensional world the most. I like playing games and even anime. Please give me your advice. Well, by the way, my name in the game is. Is this the real-life version of the Great Master? Takahashi Makoto stared blankly at Izumi Matakata, who was chattering about the game. Birds and beasts roared past in his heart, and his mind was in chaos. Takahashi Makoto looked at Izumi Nakata's classmate carefully, long blue hair, as soon as the conditions are met, Lolita body type, considering that she is still in the first year of junior high school, the second condition is to be determined. There is a tear mole under the corner of the eye, the third condition is met. So, the necessary conditions for determining a girl's identity are. After class, before Takahashi Makoto had time to confirm Izumi Matakata's true identity, Izumi Matakata squinted his eyes and came over on his own initiative. Oh, Takahashi, are you in a hurry to go home? I have a question to ask you. Izumi Nakata smiled softly at this time, but his eyes were shining with a burning light, which made Takahashi Makoto feel timid. That's right, Izumi-san, I also want to ask you some questions. Makoto Takahashi was stunned at first, and then he couldn't wait to stand up. How about we find a place to talk after school? You are unexpectedly bold, Takahashi-san. Izumi Nakata squinted his eyes and laughed strangely. Are you so anxious to attack me? No, although I can be regarded as a strategy expert, I am still far from the throne of the strategy god. For people with otaku attributes, this kind of two-dimensional conversation is really comfortable. Takahashi Makoto said, I really like this way of communication. Yes, you are indeed from the other world. Izumi was very satisfied with Takahashi Makoto's answer. In this case, the target similarity is 90%, so the decisive evidence is. Izumi-san, is your father a novelist? Makoto Takahashi asked the question he most wanted to know at this time. Takahashi, the second-grade boy in middle school, do you know magic? Izumi asked with his eyes shining like stars. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 2. Rather than saying that this world is decaying, it's better to say that I'm desperate for this world, Makoto Takahashi complained helplessly as he watched the teacher explaining the quadratic equation over and over again. A month ago, Makoto Takahashi understood a lot. For example, although the classmate Izumi Koneda in the class is very similar to the Izumi Koneda in Lucky Star, they are not the same person after all. Izumi Koneda's father is the chairman of a large enterprise. In other words, Izumi Koneda is a local tyrant. This is completely inconsistent with the characters described and shaped in the anime of the previous life. Although they can all be called otakus, the consciousness of the two-dimensional universe is a collection of consciousness, and the consciousness of the leader, Haruhi Suzumiya, is a common body. However, since there is a Shinichi Kudo with the same name and surname as a certain reincarnated elementary school student of the god of death, there is no problem with having another Izumi Koneda. The reason why parallel worlds are parallel worlds is that there are one or two similar waves occasionally, which is not surprising. The question now is how to get rid of the tangled and sad thing of going to school. Think about it, when I was in high school, I felt a little out of place when I ran into a junior high school classroom. What's more, the soul in Takahashi Makoto's body is not a high school student, but an adult. This feeling of disharmony makes Takahashi Makoto's thighs in an indescribable pain. By the way, the illustrations in Dong Zhou's mathematics textbook are well drawn. Bored Takahashi Makoto has been crazy about studying the illustrations in the mathematics textbook. Drawing. Drawing for a long time equals drawing comics equals taking leave to finish the manuscript at home equals no need to go to class. But what to draw? Takahashi Makoto remembered that he had seen a lot of time travel novels in his previous life. In the parallel world, the time travelers relied on the classic comic pens of the island country to pick up tall, rich, and handsome men, hook up with little lowly, marry white, rich and beautiful women, and live a life of slapping faces in various ways. It is enviable, but it is not feasible in this world now. Detective Conan, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball and other classic masterpieces have been published. The road to plagiarism is already full of thorns. It seems that we can only walk cautiously. Other famous comics have not been published yet, but those comics are too short. I wonder if they can last for 3 years. No, considering high school, it should be 6 years. Speaking of those novels with millions of words in the previous life, if they are adapted into comics, it's a good idea. Kudo-san, this is a math class, not a reasoning club activity. The roar from the math teacher made Takahashi Makoto return to the boring course again. Takahashi Makoto looked at Kudo-san with a bitter smile on his face, and couldn't help but be speechless. Similar situations have happened many times this month. Kudo Shinichi, who claims to want to be a detective, doesn't listen to the class seriously, but builds the murder scene in his mind, and then writes a story for the students to guess, but this time it seems a little different. Look at what you wrote, the teacher continued to roar. The victim's name is Takahashi Makoto. What? Takahashi Makoto was stunned at first, then felt the gloating eyes of the whole class, and then stared at Kudo-san angrily. Why did he become a victim, and the killing of Takahashi Makoto was allowed to happen? Wait, this is an opportunity. Teacher, I suddenly feel a little uncomfortable. Can I go home and rest? Takahashi Makoto suddenly asked with a pale face, holding his stomach, and asked with some difficulty. At the same time, he looked at Kudo silently. Thank you, boy. Takahashi Makoto finally couldn't go home to recuperate, because there was a very magical place in the school called the health room. Speaking of drawing comics, you have to have a pen name or something. The name Takahashi Makoto is definitely not okay. What if he is called Cheng Jun and becomes someone's scumbag in the future? Author, please change your name. This is my lifelong request for Takahashi Makoto. Long Aotian, well, this name must not be used. For ordinary people like me, it is better not to use a name like Long Aotian that is so high-sounding and suicidal. When the 3 words Long Aotian popped up in Takahashi Makoto's mind, a chill instantly rushed from a certain indescribable position behind Takahashi Makoto to his brain, and his whole body shivered involuntarily. This student doesn't look unwell. Just when Takahashi Makoto was racking his brains to think of a pen name, a pleasant voice suddenly sounded, and then Takahashi Makoto felt his face being pinched hard. Don't want to go to class so you pretend to be sick. The female teacher in a white coat pinched Takahashi Makoto's face hard, her eyes full of smiles. Or are you like those senior students, peeping at the teacher under the guise of being sick? Well, you look unfamiliar. Are you a freshman in junior high school who just enrolled? Hello, teacher, I'm Takahashi Makoto from class 1, class 2, Takahashi Makoto gently rubbed his cheek. Is this woman really a teacher in the health room? She looks okay, but in Takahashi Makoto's opinion, she is not at the level of a crime-inducing disaster. Oh, sorry, teacher misunderstood. The health teacher in a white coat was a little embarrassed when she was stared at by Takahashi Makoto's big watery eyes. Are you feeling uncomfortable? You caught a cold, right? I'll get you some hot water. You should take a rest first. Looking at the teacher who fled, Takahashi Makoto frowned, somewhat dissatisfied with his train of thought being interrupted. He lay on the bed, closed his eyes and continued to think about the pen name, but in his mind was the figure of the teacher who just fled in a white coat. Well, I figured it out, a thought flashed through his mind, and Takahashi Makoto suddenly remembered something. He sat up abruptly, a wild smile appeared on his face, and he quickly put on the white coat on the coat rack, put his hands on his hips, and shouted to the sky, "Since time travel has happened to me, it means that I am the chosen one, and this is a fate that cannot be escaped. I have been struggling and wandering in the abyss for thousands of years, just to wait for this day. This is the choice of Steins Gate. Oh ha 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 ha, that's right. I am the crazy demon god, Fengguangai Yuan-kuma. Yeah, it's better to put on a white coat. It feels like a middle school boy. How Erhoin-kuma, Makoto Takahashi is now completely in middle school mode, this world is decaying. The weak don't even have the right to pursue death. This world will change because of me, and I will eventually become the god of the new world. The door of the health room has been secretly opened. The health teacher held a water cup and stared blankly at Makoto Takahashi's middle school speech. For a moment, she seemed to feel that she had gone to the wrong place. She closed the door quietly and shook her head helplessly, turned around and left. Her long sigh echoed in the empty corridor. Alas, Takahashi classmate, it seems that you are very sick. In an apartment building in Guko, it is where Makoto Takahashi used to live. Since his parents passed away, Makoto Takahashi has not been back here for a long time. Drawing comics is a time-consuming and laborious task. For Makoto Takahashi, who is temporarily living in someone else's house, it is not very convenient, so this place has become the most ideal studio. Putting down the tools needed for drawing comics in his hand, Makoto Takahashi looked at the smiles of the family of three on the table, and an inexplicable sadness began to rage in his heart. Is it the sequelae of resurrection? No, I didn't die in my previous life, forget it, the original owner of this body, and my parents, please give me more advice in the future. Takahashi Makoto bowed to the photo very devoutly, and then turned around to start arranging the studio dedicated to painting in the future. In his previous self-introduction, Takahashi Makoto also said that he could paint, which is a fact. Whether it is Takahashi Makoto in the previous life or Takahashi Makoto in this world, he has always been interested in painting. In order to please the goddess, Takahashi Makoto in the previous life also studied painting seriously and systematically. During the 4 years of college, he had impure purposes at the beginning, but later he liked painting from the bottom of his heart. Of course, Takahashi Makoto did not become a cartoonist in the end but became a white-collar worker in a certain company, which naturally included some black history. By the way, what should I choose to draw at the beginning? It's best to find comics that have been drawn for a long time. Conan was originally the best choice. When I was in elementary school, Conan was also in elementary school. After I graduated from college and started working, Conan was still in elementary school. I could draw for 20 years, unfortunately, this world has already appeared. It's really helpless. The same reason, don't count on Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece. Forget it, let's look for it first. Takahashi Makoto closed his eyes and connected to the search engine in his head. This can't be considered a second-year disease. When Takahashi Makoto came to this world, he did have a search engine in his head. And this search engine seems to be able to search for many things in the previous life. Is this the legendary Goldfinger system? No, 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 according to Takahashi Makoto's theory, all of this is the choice of Steins Gate. It's so hard to choose. With such an advanced system, why don't we have a printer that can connect to the brain? As long as I think about it, I can print it out in a flash. Humans are really lazy. If they can't even make such simple equipment, how can they save the world? Does this have anything to do with saving the world, Takahashi Makoto? Moshi Moshi, oh. Sorry. I'll be there soon. Takahashi Makoto put down his phone and looked at the wall clock. It was already past 7 o'clock. It seemed that he had forgotten to eat. The landlord who kindly provided accommodation called. The landlord is actually a friend of Takahashi Makoto's parents. The couple has a son and a daughter. The daughter is about the same age as Takahashi Makoto, and the son is 9 years older than Takahashi Makoto. By the way, is it 9 years apart for the siblings to prevent the situation of siblings controlling each other? After Takahashi Makoto's family had a car accident, Takahashi Makoto was supposed to live with his grandfather Takahashi Ishine. Takahashi Makoto wanted to live alone, but the problem was that he was only 12 years old at the time, so Takahashi Ishine naturally did not allow it. But Takahashi Makoto had just traveled through time, and in the memory of this body, his parents had not mentioned the existence of Takahashi Ishine, so Takahashi Makoto decisively refused. Takahashi Ishine had no choice but to ask the good friends of Takahashi Makoto's parents, the Ogata family, to take care of Takahashi Makoto. "Makoto, you're so late." At the door of the villa with the name of Ogata, a little loli with twin ponytails was complaining about the late Takahashi Makoto with her hands on her waist. "Rina-chan, can I ask you for a favor?" For some reason, when Takahashi Makoto heard Rina call him Makoto, he subconsciously felt a chill on his neck. Rina looked at Takahashi Makoto, who was a little pale, and couldn't help but be curious. "What's the matter? Can you please not call me Makoto?" Takahashi Makoto put his hands together and spoke sincerely. Was that feeling just now a sign that he would be possessed by Makoto and dismembered? No, this crisis must be nipped in the bud. Makoto-kun is really weird. Rina was a little confused. "By the way, why are you wearing a white coat?" "White coat? Takahashi Makoto suddenly remembered that he seemed to have been wearing this white coat since he came out of the health room. No wonder the pedestrians along the way looked at him with strange eyes. "Then how should I call Makoto-kun?" "Oni-chan." Kamisa, seeing that Takahashi Makoto didn't say anything, Rina asked again. "Actually, I'm not Takahashi Makoto." Takahashi Makoto frowned, looked at the surprised little loli, and suddenly started laughing wildly. "Foolish mortal. I hereby declare that the soul from the parallel world has finally broken through the seal of darkness and light, and the devil has descended to the world." "Oh ha 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 ha, that's right, I am the crazy devil, Fengguangai Yuan-kuma. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 3. This world has finally fallen into my hands. Yes, I am Fengguangai Yuan-kuma, the god of the new world. Mortals should follow the teachings of God and maintain the necessary humility, so that they can receive the grace of the sea and the rainstorm will not rage again. Late at night, Takahashi Makoto stood by the window, as if immersed in the beautiful night view, letting the wind blow his white coat to flutter. "Makoto, are you okay?" Twin-tailed Rina looked at Takahashi Makoto with some doubts, a little confused, because Takahashi Makoto's performance today was too abnormal compared to the past. "Foolish mortal, can't you see the world that is about to disappear?" Takahashi Makoto answered irrelevantly, covered his left eye with his right hand, and laughed softly. "Yes, how can a mortal like you understand the existence of the world? How can you know the upcoming crisis? What are you talking in your sleep, you arrogant kid?" A young man in his 20s, wearing pajamas, looked at Takahashi Makoto, who was in a state of middle school with an unhappy face, and complained viciously, "I still have to work tomorrow, so can you be quiet? Lena is the same, go to bed early, don't pay attention to this stupid idiot kid. He, this is not a dream or acting. Just like the Mayans predicted the end of the world, the dark world is about to come. In order to save this world, I turned into a crazy demon and traveled through a parallel world. That kind of pain, it hurts. Liana looked at her brother who gave Takahashi Makoto a knife, and her face turned pale in fear. She was about to say something, but was interrupted by her brother. Humph. Rina, take this kid to the hospital tomorrow. He's really ill, Ogata Ag snorted coldly, slammed the door hard, and turned to go out. Tisk, if the human body wasn't too fragile, would I be defeated by a hand knife from a young boy who just grew hair? Takahashi Makoto rubbed his head and muttered, trying to challenge the dignity of the king. Ogata Ag, you are really bold as a commoner, and Rina, didn't I tell you before dinner, don't call me Makoto-kun anymore. Makoto-kun is a big idiot, Rina suddenly shouted loudly, and then imitated Ogata Ag and slammed the door and left. Alas, the world of Fengguangai Yuan Xiongzhen is really not something that you mortals can touch, only Takahashi Makoto sighed in the empty room. To be honest, Takahashi Makoto was not a middle school student in his previous life, and even when he first came to this world, he was not very middle school student. As for why he suddenly became so middle school student, there is actually a reason. The fantasy theory is that Takahashi Makoto in the previous life still had concerns, and Takahashi Makoto in this life was unwilling to give up. The obsession and resentment wanted to merge together, but it was not a problem that could be solved by a fusion magic card. The fusion of souls takes time to run in. Of course, you can also try to face death directly. If you don't go to hell together, then it is estimated that under the stimulation of death, the two souls will merge together. The normal theory is that when facing an unfamiliar environment, humans always have an irresistible sense of crisis and fear, and they will have a sense of denial about their own existence, and then develop doubts about the authenticity of the world. In this case, many people will have an escapist mentality. They know that the world they live in is real, but they are unwilling to admit it. They would rather choose to enter the world of self-delusion. And Takahashi Makoto is a typical representative. Of course, this phenomenon is basically difficult for many people to encounter. The distortion of the real world and the delusional world is not so easy to encounter. As for a time traveler like Takahashi Makoto, it is very normal. After all, not everyone has a strong mind. It's easy to say that crossing is a thing, but when you really face it, is it really so easy to accept? Chuyunibu may be a disease, but for those who escape from reality, it is a brand new world, a more exciting world. A man is a Chuyunibu until his death? No, 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 Takahashi Makoto will definitely say that without Chuyunibu, what is the meaning of coming to this world and living in this world? Did Takahashi Makoto succeed? In a sense, it is considered a success. To cover up the anxiety of time travel, the pain of losing parents in this world, and the helplessness of living in a fictional world like Truman, is there any other way except pretending to be a Chuyunibu? Without the ability to change the world, then you can only change yourself and adapt to this world. The only thing you can do is to keep your original heart. Even if you are a severe Chuyunibu patient in the eyes of others, Takahashi Makoto at least still has his own heart. Well, in fact, all this is just an excuse for Takahashi Makoto to cover up that he is in a hopeless situation of Chuyunibu. This world wants me to fall, but I struggle, twisting my body, living a humble and ugly life. Whether it's a fallen angel or a dark devil, as long as my wish is fulfilled, I am willing to sacrifice my soul. Makoto Takahashi said this seriously when he was having dinner with the Ogata family tonight. Makoto-chan? A real man, Mrs. Ogata looked at Rina with some doubts, a trace of anxiety flashed in her eyes, and then turned to her husband Ogata-kao, dear, don't you think you should say something? Ogata-kao put down the bowl and chopsticks in his hand, staring at Makoto Takahashi, without saying a word. The originally harmonious atmosphere during the meal was now very depressing. Rina and Eiji were also affected and stopped the bowls and chopsticks in their hands. For a moment, they didn't know how to break the silence. Oh? Have you already decided? Takahashi Makoto, I have to remind you one thing. You haven't learned the swastika yet. Luffy was instantly killed by the Admiral. The reality is so cruel. You want to insist on what you want? Weak Takahashi Makoto. After a while, Ogata Hong said something with a serious face that made the Ogata family speechless. So what? Uncle, is it a sin to be weak? Will the weak be abandoned by the world? Hearing this, Takahashi Makoto's unwillingness from his soul seemed to be strongly stimulated at this moment. The same, could no longer be suppressed, and exploded without reservation. Strong? Weak. Why, since ancient times, people have always admired the strong and despised the weak. Because the weak are weak, they have no right to resist, and it is useless. Ogata suddenly stood up at this moment and looked at Makoto Takahashi coldly. This society, no, this world is like this. Gao Chiao Chang, you are so pitiful. You obviously know that you are wrong, but you are so duplicitous and unwilling to admit it. You are so childish. Dear, Mrs. Ogata was a little dissatisfied. Shang-chan is still a child no matter what. Why do you? Child? No, you are wrong. Ogata Hang shook his head in denial, and his tone became more violent. Can childishness allow you to disagree with the world you live in? Can childishness be used as an excuse? Childishness can act arbitrarily and deny my own mistake. It's not me that's wrong, it's the whole world. Takahashi Makoto was no longer alone at this moment. Yagamayu, Lelich, and scumbag Makoto were possessed by their souls at this moment, almost roaring, and said a very classic Shuyuni lines. Oh ha 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 ha, Ogata suddenly laughed loudly, with a trace of satisfaction in his eyes. Then what do you want to do? Go back to that annoying old man? Or continue to live here shamelessly? Does that need to be said? Makoto Takahashi's eyes were full of determination. Of course I want to go home, to my original home. That world that belongs to me. That world where even being weak can be recognized. Okay, you can go away, you bastard. Ogata Hang's smile suddenly stopped, and he put on a cold face, smiling mockingly. I am looking forward to the day when you will come back like a lost dog. Beg me to take you in again. Hearing this, Takahashi Makoto said nothing. He stood up and turned around to leave. When he reached the entrance, he looked back at Ogata Hang with a smile on his face and said, the day you expected will definitely not be the day you expected it will appear. I will risk the pride of my soul and the pride of the king. Watching Takahashi Makoto slam the door and leave, Ogata showed a satisfied smile on his face. He just turned around and saw the two women at home with angry faces, but his son looked confused. He couldn't help but shook his head. Dad is really too much. How can you say such things to Chang-kun? Rina will never pay attention to Dad again. Rina waved her fist and threatened with a pouted mouth. Dear, although Mrs. Ogata was smiling, she said through gritted teeth, if you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I think tonight, no, you will spend the night on the sofa for the next year. Never mind. Eiji, what do you think? Ogata Hang looked at his son, his eyes full of expectation. Although I somewhat understand your approach, I think you seem to have gone too far. Xiao Cheng is only 13 years old this year. Eiji pushed up his glasses. You seem a little impatient. Eiji, you are still a child. Ogata shook his head. The communication between men and men, apart from fists, is more importantly the collision of wills. That child, although his thoughts are sweet sometimes, but, he took the most important step for a man. At the same time, Makoto Takahashi, who returned to the studio, turned red. He stood by the window and looked down at the night view of grain and grass. He clenched his fists tightly, and a fighting spirit suddenly ignited in his heart. Is this a humiliation? No, 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 Uncle is really a very smart person. He was able to guess my thoughts from my second form speech. How interesting is this kind of opponent? By the way, I seem to have been beaten by someone before. Are these people possessed? The fault is not mine, but the whole world. Makoto Takahashi walked to the desk, looked at the drawing paper on the table, with a playful smile on his face, stretched out his hand to hold the brush, his eyes were full of excitement, and he took a deep breath. I offer my soul, thoughts, and existence as a sacrifice, the eyes of the devil, the wings of the fallen angel, the sword of disaster and destruction of the world, cut off the past, forget the present, give up the future, and obey the call of the great will of the world, break free from the blockage of the abyss magma and come to me, the decision is yours, come out, the second world destroyer. On the drawing paper, there is an extra line of words, Destiny Note, Destiny Note. The abbreviation is DN, everyone knows this, right? A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 4. Then, that's the end of today's class. Teacher Sato closed the textbook and stared at Makoto Takahashi with a smile on his face. Except for Makoto Takahashi, who was sleeping, the whole class got a hint of coolness. Huh? There is murderous intent. Makoto Takahashi seemed to have sensed Teacher Sato's gaze, and suddenly shouted, "The world I protect cannot be destroyed by a scum like you with a combat power of only 5. Let's have a good fight. Come on, Awakener. You are already dead, Takahashi." Makoto, Izumi looked at Makoto Takahashi with a look of death, and said what most of his classmates felt. "Takahashi-san, please come to the student guidance room after class." Teacher Sato said the sentence with difficulty, almost through gritted teeth. But just for a moment, the smile on Teacher Sato's face could no longer be maintained, because she found that after Makoto Takahashi yelled, he slowly sat down and fell asleep. Takahashi Makoto, the sound waves that penetrated the heaven and earth echoed in the classroom, finally waking up Takahashi Makoto from his sleep. Makoto Takahashi, who had just woken up, rubbed his eyes, his vision was hazy, and he seemed to see a figure approaching him vaguely. Takahashi-chan asked subconsciously without thinking too much, "Who is it? Who is calling me?" "Common people, if you disturb the king's dream, you can't just commit suicide and apologize. Are you awake, Takahashi Makoto?" Teacher Sato finally couldn't bear it anymore, rolled up the textbook in his hand, and hit Takahashi Makoto hard on the head. "It hurts, it hurts." Makoto Takahashi was still a little confused, as if he hadn't figured out the situation yet, and asked doubtfully, "Are you my master? Even if you have a command spell, don't even think about ordering me, you are like this inferior common people." He 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 he. Teacher Sato suddenly smiled, a very bright smile. If it weren't for the sudden flash of chill in her eyes, it would probably increase her charm effect by 200%. Of course, in the eyes of Makoto Takahashi, it is a different scene. That destructive smile has deeply entered the word blackening into the dictionary of Takahashi Makoto's mind. Makoto Takahashi is only a middle school student, not an idiot. The current scene makes it clear that his opponent is not the great demon King Piccolo, but Majin Buu. Before completing the second stage of Saiyan transformation, the end has come. Under the setting sun, Takahashi Makoto was walking alone on the way to school. The whole school was deserted. After being brutally raped by Mr. Sato, Takahashi Makoto was suddenly curious about how he survived. Has Sato-sensei reached the age of menopause? Is he so easily angered? Could it be that he is parasitized by demonic insects? This kind of character can't be tolerated even by those sluts in the other world. The rhythm of being destined to live a lonely life. This yes, Makoto Takahashi completely ignored the people on the street and roared, "Damn it! My noble phantasm is sealed." Destiny note, this kind of anti-personnel noble phantasm that can paralyze the opponent's heart just by writing his name. Why is it sealed? This is unscientific. Mom, that big brother is so weird. Is he sick? A 4 or 5-year-old Shota looked at Makoto Takahashi, who was in the middle school state, and asked his mother curiously. Ah, yes, he is ill. Young Shota's mother kept a certain distance between young Shota and Takahashi Makoto, and warned the young Shota with a vigilant face, Anran must never become like this in the future. That would make my mother sad. Humph. Ordinary people, although there was some distance between them, Takahashi Cheng heard all the conversation between mother and son. The hungry Makoto Takahashi finally dragged his dying body back to the apartment building. Because of Mr. Sato's special guidance, Makoto Takahashi, who was suffering physically and mentally, had no intention of buying ingredients, so he had to rely on instant noodles for dinner. But what surprised Takahashi Makoto was that there was a cooked meal on the table. He reached out and touched it. It was still hot and seemed to have just come out of the oven. This situation is. Humph, do you want to distract me with food and then give me a fatal blow? I have to say that this inferior method is too naive. The devil hiding in the darkness, show up and lead me to death. Seeing the curtains shaking, Takahashi Cheng rushed over without hesitation. Take on my strongest secret. Whoa, 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 ha. Mystery, Phoenix Fierce Wave. Lauka's unique skills were created after many years of hard work. As for Takahashi Makoto, it is basically impossible for him to comprehend them instantly. As a result, he stumbled with his left foot, and Makoto Takahashi flew out. Mysticism, Phoenix Fierce Wave was instantly downgraded to Sacrifice Attack. It is a pity that Takahashi Makoto does not have the hidden characteristic of a stone head, so he himself was injured in return. The two people collided directly. Takahashi Makoto felt that the place where his hands touched was a very elastic and soft part. Is this kind of touch an absolute defense? Makoto Takahashi, it's such a waste to use this kind of happy-go-lucky plot on a guy like you who is destined to live alone. Before he could say anything, the other party had already screamed. Since Mr. Sato has already used Sonic Attack today, an absolute defense has been passively triggered and used. The damage this time has an outstanding effect. When Makoto Takahashi felt dizzy, he felt that the voice sounded very familiar, and it seemed that it might be someone he knew. Ogatarina can be considered as having a full day today. A one-way ticket to a roller coaster with ups and downs like heaven to hell is something that few people can enjoy. In the past month, Makoto Takahashi has always fallen asleep in class, for which he was often scolded by his homeroom teacher, Mr. Sato. Although Rina and Takahashi Makoto are in the same school and in different classes, they still know a little about this kind of thing. Out of curiosity, Ogatarina did not go home directly after class that day, but came to the apartment building where Takahashi Makoto lived. Makoto Takahashi's residence is easy to identify. There is a huge ferocious eye painted on the door, and the words "Door of Truth" are written next to it. Well, there are some notes: if you want to get something, you must give something. This is truth. Have you realized that you have to pay the price? With such a second-rate design, I'm afraid only Makoto Takahashi can come up with it, right? Ignoring the paintings and notes on the door, Rina took out the spare key, kindly provided by a certain cat who was shaking her ass, opened the door and entered. Looking at the mess on the ground, Rina frowned, but soon she was attracted by the drawings on the table. The first drawing showed a ferocious-looking monster with jet-black wings, an extremely exaggerated and twisted figure, and a slightly opened bloody mouth, revealing sharp fangs. Through the notes written by Takahashi Makoto on the side, Rina only then did I realize that this was not a monster at all, but Sulk, the god of death. Seeing the mocking smile on the Shinigami's face, Rina couldn't help but feel a chill. Then the scene turned, and what appeared in front of Rina was a sunny and handsome boy. He was holding a notebook with a black cover in his left hand and an apple in his right hand. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth. At first glance, it was very warm, but after looking carefully, Rina felt that this boy made her feel even more frightened. Destiny note: How to use, the person whose name is written in this notebook will die. When Rina saw this, she couldn't help but feel a chill. Children who are 12 or 13 years old have basically no concept of death. Although they know what death means, in reality, Rina has only seen small animals such as kittens, puppies, fish, and turtles. Death, and human death, is still too profound for children who have just emerged from the Showbiz period. Children's curiosity is the most powerful thing in this world. Although many of the contents are vaguely understood, Rina still looked at it with difficulty. The thick stack of drawings was gradually turned over by Rina. As the sky darkened, Rina finally finished reading the last page of the drawing. For some reason, she felt a little melancholy. Especially when she saw the hunchbacked man named L with dark circles in the drawing, falling down with a look of disbelief. Rina felt inexplicably irritated. Is that idiot Changkun drawing this these days? Why haven't you come back yet? You probably got a good education from the teacher, right? After reading the drawing, Rina had nothing to do, and finally fixed her gaze on the refrigerator, with inexplicable excitement shining in her eyes. Guang Guang, I've seen my mother do this many times, but Changkun hasn't come back yet. Rina, a 12-year-old late-stage Lolita, are you going to go against the grain? By the way, when you were chopping vegetables, why were you mumbling Makoto Takahashi's name through gritted teeth? What's going on with that inexplicable smile on your face? When did you see your mother holding the kitchen knife with both hands when chopping vegetables? When Rina just put the food on the table, Takahashi Makoto came back. Like a child who was caught making a mistake, Rina hid behind the curtain without hesitation, muttering in her mind, "You can't see me, you can't see me. There is only a thin line between heaven and hell. I wonder which great man experienced such pain before he had such a profound understanding?" When Rina heard Takahashi Saichu's second-style battle declaration, she instinctively noticed something was wrong. Unfortunately, it was too late. After all, the Lolita in the final stage was still unable to compete with Shota in the pseudo-final stage. A soul in his 20s can't explain it, was thrown to the ground, the table where the gun was lying and the drawings on the table had already committed suicide in despair. What made Rina even more resentful and shy was that a pair of hands was pressing on the most important part of the girl's neck that cannot be described. Out of instinct, Rina lifted the restriction and instantly opened the third level of the gene lock, and her seed exploded. A sharp scream, accompanied by the three sacred attributes of ignoring magic immunity, ignoring physical defense, and spiritual attack, swept towards Takahashi Makoto. This move is called Lowly Evolution Girl Siren Medusa's Wail. Is it you, Rin? When Takahashi Makoto woke up from his dizziness, he only saw the back of the criminal, and the beating twin tails disappeared in an instant. Looking at the scattered drawings around him, Makoto Takahashi frowned, and then began to slowly organize them. This is a work that Takahashi Makoto plagiarized with painstaking efforts over the past month, staying up late at night and transforming into a small boy to resist the pressure of Mr. Sato's various special tutoring. It is very unethical to put it around casually. Oh. That's great, L. Are you all okay? Makoto Takahashi looked at the wrinkles that were slowly being smoothed on his back, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then, let's start taking the most important step. Take one step, soul resonance. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 5. Takahashi-san, how about we form a team to farm equipment at night? Izumi Matakata looked at Makoto Takahashi, who was napping on the table, and sent an invitation to form a team. Same as last time, I will lure the monsters, and you will be responsible for cleaning. On the battlefield, Mr. Sato is responsible for the firepower output. It can't be done at night, I have a more important war, Makoto Takahashi answered in a daze. Now I am accumulating magic power. Not only did I not succeed in replenishing magic power last night, I almost died in the dark cooking world. Last night, In line with the principle of not wasting food, Takahashi Makoto ate the food left by Rina. From Rina's cooking, I came into contact with the two world-class laws of despair and misfortune, and my resistance to poison increased by 100%. But the price is painful, the sense of taste is paralyzed, temporarily, HP is lost in half, mana is directly cleared, and the debilitating curse continues. According to the words of a certain young chef, food that can bring happiness and hope to people is real food. But Rina's cuisine is definitely the best in the dark cuisine world, bar none. I hope I can fight with the summoner this time. The magic swordsman profession is too useless. Makoto Takahashi walked out of the classroom lazily, looking forward to it full of hope. Good teammates are essential for victory or defeat. Whether the enemy is a god or a slime, in the context of the era of popular team combat, a lone hero will eventually turn into a humanoid money printing machine that will kill people. That's right, Makoto Takahashi plans to submit a manuscript. According to Makoto Takahashi's experience on the internet in his previous life and a certain dark history, a good editor is very important. Just like the red and blue potions in the backpack, it is the best prop to save your life and a must-have for home travel. You will definitely worth having. Co. Limited Yorongshi is one of the largest publishing houses in Dongzhou and the leader in the comics industry. When it comes to Yuisha, Young Junk is naturally indispensable. This magazine, published by Dongzhou Yorong Society, is currently the highest circulating comic magazine in Dongzhou. Most of the published works are action-adventure comics, most of which tend to be fantasy style, and deliberately focus on the character's personality and pursue the twists and turns of the plot. Of course, there are also some works on love, sports, and historical themes. Most of the works have beautiful characters, so they also have a large number of teenage readers. They are suitable for both young and old, and are suitable for both men and women. Makoto Takahashi once expressed doubts about the name Shounen Jump. He always felt that he had seen the same name somewhere, but he didn't delve into it further. Even if you have a search engine, you still can't find it. There is only one truth, it's laziness. Takahashi Makoto had contacted Yuisha before and agreed to submit the manuscript this afternoon. Without any hesitation, Takahashi Makoto decisively skipped class. How can something like taking a class be compared with saving the world? Makoto Takahashi believes that Kira has already come to the world and is still struggling with what to attend class. Isn't this a prelude to setting up a death flag? Whether it was the fierce-looking but unexpectedly polite security guard, or the front desk waitress with a sweet voice and a service attitude that earned countless likes, Takahashi Makoto felt the strong foundation of Yuisha. The structure of this organization is really tight. It seems to take a lot of time to penetrate it. Makoto Takahashi followed the waitress's prompts and came to the second meeting room. When you come to the designated place, then the first is an NPC going to appear. Let's start my newbie mission. What's in the newbie gift package? A red and blue potion. Makoto Takahashi, who was struggling to get the novice gift pack later, finally waited for the editing NPC he had reserved. With her long shawl hair parted in the middle, at first glance, she definitely looks like the kind of bad gangster leader. But it looks pretty good. If you have a chance, you can try to invite me to join the team. Are you the Phoenix Inferno who contacted me before? I am Koji Yashida, the editor of Shounen Jump. You can call me Yashida. Yashida looked a little confused. After hesitating for a moment, he still asked, well, by the way, can you take off the mask on your face? Huh? You can't see my true face. Are you really a magician? Makoto Takahashi scratched his head in frustration. This mask stores energy that can destroy the world with one blow. Knowing this after the fact, are you still so persistent? From the sound of his voice, he could tell that he was an underage ghost. Yashida was a little disappointed, but he didn't say much. As a qualified editor, Yashida is naturally outstanding. Although the other person's words are a bit, but at this age, Yoshida is also very curious about submitting articles, so he naturally shows his sincerity. Yes, please do. So what if it means destroying the world? This kind of neurotic kid still followed his train of thought and answered. If the comics are good, maybe something interesting will happen in the future. Yoshida's face, he smiled with an unknown meaning. Oh, do you have the consciousness to destroy the world without any hesitation? Ha 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 ha, I like you very much. Makoto Takahashi suddenly stood up, laughed wildly, and threw the mask aside. In that case, I accept you as my family. Let our glory shine in the world. Remember my real name, Takahashi Makoto. Yes, I am the crazy manga artist, Phoenix Academy. Takahashi Makoto, right? Can you let me see your work? Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi, who was wearing a white coat, with a trace of doubt on his face. How did the security guard and the front desk let this neurotic kid in? Huh, stupid Yoshida-kun, do you know how important a real name is to a magician in this world? In this world, there is no such thing as Makoto Takahashi, there are only Phoenix Academy murderers. Makoto Takahashi, while handing the drawing in his hand to Yoshida, he complained, because you have just become my subordinate, I will spare you this time. If there is a next time, then, remember, you stupid mortal. This kid is really annoying. A qualified editor who focuses on drawings. Most cartoonists have some peculiar personalities, but this is the first time Yoshida has seen such weird characters as Takahashi Makoto. Yoshida endured his displeasure, snatched the manuscript, and forced himself into editing review mode. As for Makoto Takahashi's constant nagging beside him, Yoshida completely ignored it. Destiny Note is a fantasy and fictional mystery story with a dark style. Although Yoshida feels that Makoto Takahashi has a bad character, he admires his works from the bottom of his heart. Especially in the story, L and Kira sometimes lose and sometimes win. The whole story unfolds completely through the duel between the two high IQs, which makes Yoshida fascinated. However, Yoshida still had some doubts in his heart. Was this kind of story really drawn by the child in front of him? If he is able to draw works of this level at this age, if everything is true, then this child is probably a genius, right? Did you paint this work? Yoshida would not ask this kind of idiotic question. As a thoughtful editor, he knows very well the cartoonist's recognition of his original work. You can doubt the author's painting skills and the author's ability to tell stories, but you can never doubt the authenticity of the original work. Doubting the authenticity of the author's original work is undoubtedly the greatest humiliation to an author. Yoshida was naturally secretive about this, but he still couldn't believe that this story was written by Makoto Takahashi, so he changed his method of questioning. Mr. Takahashi Makoto, I have a question for you. Yoshida originally wanted to call him Mr. Takahashi Makoto, but looking at the other person's immature face, he changed the title temporarily. How long did it take you to complete this work? How long did it take? About 2 or 3 months. Makoto Takahashi tried to think back and answered truthfully. Of course, Makoto Takahashi understood the implication of Yoshida's question and asked with some dissatisfaction, "What, are you questioning your own God? Are you trying to subvert your own beliefs, my most devout believer? When did I become your believer?" The corners of Yoshida's mouth twitched and he stared at Makoto Takahashi angrily, but there was no doubt in his heart. It's really speechless to say it, because of what Makoto Takahashi said to him just now. Yoshida was able to confirm that the work in his hand was written by Makoto Takahashi. Takahashi Makoto's self-centered character, claiming to be the god of the new world, isn't this attribute very similar to that of Light Yagami, who goes by the pseudonym Kira? The world of the second grade is indeed not something that ordinary people can guess at will. After discussing it in detail for a long time, Yoshida gave his opinion and hoped to submit this work to the serialization meeting. If approved, serialization can be achieved. As for what to sign, although Takahashi Makoto is a bit of a mediocre person, due to some reasons in his previous life, he has shown a very professional attitude towards this issue. Think about it, Makoto Takahashi temporarily abandoned his secondary attributes and entered expert negotiation mode. As for the terms and conditions in the contract, Takahashi Makoto frantically searched for the root cause, asking questions one by one in detail. Yoshida was frightened by all kinds of weird questions. Takahashi-san, if you don't become a cartoonist in the future, you can definitely become an outstanding lawyer. Looking at Makoto Takahashi leaving, Yoshida wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and praised softly. But this smile of admiration was fleeting, and Yoshida's face was replaced by an extremely proud smile. Oh ha ha ha, I really discovered an incredible talent this time. It seems that he is already far away from the editor-in-chief's throne. It's not too far away, Hattori, Aida, just wait and kneel down. In this way, the most important chess piece is already in hand, and the conditions for victory have been gathered. Makoto Takahashi stood at the door of Yui Society, his white coat flying in the wind, and a look of the world has already passed away appeared on his face. With a look of being conquered by me, he pushed up the non-existent glasses on his face and said, I have seen the final outcome of the matter. Yes, I will definitely be above all living beings. The fierceness of the Phoenix Academy will become the world's most powerful person. The only god, ha 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 ha. Makoto Takahashi vs Koji Yoshida, the winner is Makoto Takahashi. How to win? Makoto Takahashi used the pseudonym Phoenix Inferno to successfully drag Yoshida Koji into the Chuyoni world and assimilate the enemy into his own camp. The loot obtained in this battle is as follows. 1. The dependent Yoshida Koji is 1, it should be no problem to use the word only as a quantifier, right? 2. Master the negotiation expert mode, starting condition, abandon the secondary attributes. 3. A sinister personality, currently sealed. 4. The first chess piece to conquer the world is obtained, Takahashi Makoto's fantasy. 5. Successfully integrate into the organization and become a preparatory member of the evil party, Takahashi Makoto's fantasy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 6. It has been 2 weeks since Makoto Takahashi successfully signed the contract, and Yoshida still has not contacted Makoto Takahashi, which makes Takahashi Makoto a little confused. Hey, it's just a different name. During the lunch break, Takahashi Makoto stood on the roof of the building, looking at the noisy students below, his face a little unhappy. These little brats are really have no worries. Do you know how terrifying the adult world will be in the future? Enjoy this only happy time. When the doomsday crisis comes, it's not because I changed my name that I was obliterated, right? That's a masterpiece. Makoto Takahashi sighed, then pushed the non-existent eyes on his face and stared at the sky with a cold face. Humph, those dirty adults, are really the wisdom of mortals. Speaking of Takahashi Makoto, how long do you plan to imitate Colonel Chu? You have very good eyesight in both eyes. You don't wear any glasses at all, even sunglasses. Not to mention Takahashi Makoto's entanglement, Yoshida's side is going crazy. At the serialization meeting, the work recommended by Yoshida, Destiny Note, was approved by 10 votes. Although there were 2 votes against, at this meeting, the minority must obey the majority, so the serialization was confirmed, and Yoshida also successfully became Makoto Takahashi's editor-in-chief is really gratifying. It was indeed gratifying. Yoshida was immersed in joy. Makoto Takahashi's first work was recognized by the editor-in-chief. Although the style deviated somewhat from the theme of Shonen Jump and even the entire theme leaned towards darkness, what does it matter? You must know that this is only the first work of Makoto Takahashi's debut. Who can guarantee that the next work will not be better? Promotion and salary increase, becoming editor-in-chief, the day of marrying by Fume is just around the corner, the future of luxury villas, beautiful cars, and beautiful women is no longer a luxury. The more Yoshida thought about it, the more excited he became. The corners of his mouth could not help but raise, and the smile on his face made many colleagues frown. Yoshida can naturally detect the looks in his colleagues' eyes, but it doesn't matter. It's natural to be jealous. The skill of identifying heroes with a keen eye is not something that mere mortals like you can master. Confirmed, Yoshida has completely become a believer of Makoto Takahashi at this moment. Although Takahashi Makoto is a bit neurotic, at this time, as the editor-in-chief, Yoshida feels the need to contact Takahashi Makoto. At this time, the joy should be shared. Although Yoshida used to think that kid was annoying, now he feels that Takahashi Makoto is just a very unique child. I wonder if Yoshida has ever heard of a saying in Zhongzhou, extreme joy brings sorrow. After the joy, Yoshida discovered a very tragic problem. He did not have Takahashi Makoto's contact information. That neurotic brat is really annoying. Yoshida burst into tears and knelt down completely. Frankly speaking, Yoshida has been working as an editor for several years. He can swear to his future that there has never been a freak kid like Takahashi Makoto in the past and there will never be one in the future. He is definitely a special existence. Among the cartoonists who have contributed to Shonen Jump before, which one did not leave their contact information in detail on the last page of the manuscript? Some cartoonists are worried that their comics will be selected and they will not be contacted, so they even write down the contact information of relatives and friends one by one. But look at Makoto Takahashi, what did this naughty kid write? Destiny note. Author, Phoenix Academy Fierce Truth. School, Dimasha Academy of Magic East Branch. Home address, City of Gods, Valhalla. Contact number, a mobile phone is divided into 7 Dragon Balls and sealed in every corner of the world. Young man, please gather the 7 Dragon Balls and call the dragon in Namekian language. Takahashi Makoto, the real murderer of the Phoenix Institute. A weird smile appeared on Yoshida's face. He was on the verge of collapse and suddenly roared, I believe this naughty kid is definitely a stain on my career. Ah. TCH, why are you so proud? The editor named Yujiro Hattori was startled by Yoshida's crazy roar and couldn't help complaining angrily. However, after seeing Yoshida's red eyes, he still swallowed the following words. Editor-in-chief, editor-in-chief. Yoshida ignored Yujiro, ran to the editor-in-chief with a worried look on his face, and stammered out the news that Takahashi Makoto had lost contact. This result, of course, goes without saying. Home economics class, cut. This kind of introductory course that still teaches children how to chop vegetables. For me, who has already passed the special chef level, it is like asking a full-level magic swordsman to fight slimes. Makoto Takahashi, I think it's better to go to your own club because the afternoon class is very boring. Hey. My dependent, what are you mumbling about? Have you obtained the special item Dragon Tooth Sword for job transfer? You are worthy of being my dependent. Did your abilities awaken just after you signed the contract? Takahashi Makoto wandered to the UI club. Before entering, he saw Yoshida muttering something with a pale face and saying hello very friendly. After all, Yoshida Koji was a low-class servant in Takahashi Makoto's heart. His true status, well, he should be a dependent. Finally, I found you, Makoto Takahashi. Although Yoshida spoke in a low voice, what was going on with the heavy resentment on his body? Was he possessed by Kayako? It looks like you're here to see me. Takahashi Makoto looked thoughtful, then calmly came to Yoshida, held Yoshida's hands, and a sacred smile appeared on his face. The merciful Lord will always favor my believers, and the glory of the Lord will shine on you. Takahashi Makoto performed instant teleportation and took Yoshida, the editor-in-chief, back to his home. From then on, the uncle and the little boy lived a shameless and unscrupulous happy life, and then the whole book was finished. Hey, 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 this is the story of a certain middle school cartoonist. How could such a great development of a little boy and an uncle being gay appear? Besides, this kind of age difference between the same sex is not cute at all, damn it. In the Gusiao apartment building, Takahashi Makoto's absolute defense barrier, an ideal place far away from the world, Yoshida held the draft in his hand and looked at Takahashi Makoto with a complicated expression. Speaking of the decoration of the Gate of Truth, although Takahashi Makoto liked it very much, it was confiscated by the little lowly Rina because it was accused of being too ugly and too disgusting. Yoshida was very unhappy with the identity information that Takahashi Makoto indicated in the comics Inuyasha before, and decided to visit Takahashi Makoto's parents. After all, how can a child of Takahashi Makoto's age not communicate with his parents and guardians if he wants to become a cartoonist? And Yoshida also wants to see what kind of couple can raise such a weird child. You want to see my parents? Takahashi Makoto looked at Yoshida with a weird face. Foolish mortals, actually want to peek into the realm that humans should not touch, what a pathetic ant. Yoshida has already developed antibodies to Takahashi Makoto's words. In his opinion, Takahashi Makoto's behavior is completely a manifestation of guilt. Yoshida was secretly happy, but also a little worried, because Takahashi Makoto's destiny note has been decided to be serialized. If his parents don't agree. Yoshida actively prepared his speech along the way, thinking about various possible situations, and even simulating various negotiation models. Yoshida was very confident that he could convince Takahashi Makoto's parents to support Takahashi Makoto to become a cartoonist, and he didn't even care too much about the strange painting on Takahashi Makoto's door. Are you ready, my family? Takahashi Makoto took out the key from his white coat and opened the door. God City, Valhalla, barrier, open. The first person Yoshida saw was not Takahashi Makoto's parents, but a cute little loli. Why are you here, Rina Ali Kanakis Wikito Nanako? Takahashi Makoto looked at Rina, frowned a little, and asked in confusion. Because you skipped class again, Makoto-kun. Rina's face showed a foul smile. By the way, who is Rina Ari Kanaki Suwato Nanako? Don't call me Makoto-kun, don't you have the ability to remember everything you see once? How can you not remember even this kind of thing? I am Hao-Winkima, the god and devil who has come to the top of the world. Takahashi Makoto scratched his head in dissatisfaction. Come in, low-class servant, my dependent. The barrier has been opened. By the way, the person in front of you is a magician who has the ability to pass through various barriers and currently works in the same department as me. Sorry, excuse me, Yoshida's mouth twitched, I am the editor-in-chief. Low-class servant, right? The status is even lower than my dependent. Wait, why do you have to argue with a naughty child? Calm down, Yoshida, you have an important responsibility. That. Yoshida was interrupted by Takahashi Makoto's scream when he was about to ask about Takahashi Makoto's parents. Rina Ari Kanaki Suwato Nanako. Why are you here again? Takahashi Makoto's face turned extremely pale. Looking at the black unknown substance on the table, he swallowed hard. People in the secular world are really obsessed with eating, my loved ones. This is the Lord's trial, no, this is the Lord's blessing. With a pious heart, accept the gift from heaven. Takahashi Makoto didn't stop at all, walked straight to the drawing table and started drawing. Although his stomach was growling with hunger, Takahashi Makoto resisted hunger and started drawing. But does drawing still require spells? Secret mirror and water heart is a bug drawing skill of a crab head. Is it really a manly thing to use it for drawing? Hello uncle, I'm Ogata Rina. Rina lowly greeted Yoshida politely, and then glanced at Takahashi Makoto. Don't pay attention to that strange guy, he will forget everything as long as he draws. By the way, who are you, uncle? Uncle, am I already this old? Yoshida suffered an unprecedented blow, but it was surprising that the naughty boy Takahashi Makoto actually had normal friends. Hello, I am Yoshida Koji, the editor of Shonen Jump, and I am currently the editor in charge of Takahashi Makoto. Oh, you are an editor, I don't know what it is, but it sounds so impressive. Rina didn't seem to notice Yoshida's embarrassment, but instead talked to herself. Since Makoto's parents passed away, this is the first time I've seen him bring someone here. Really, he is a first-year junior high school student like me. Why did his father agree to let him move out and live alone? He is so biased. Rina was still complaining, but Yoshida was completely shocked. Both parents died. A first-year junior high school student moved out from his guardian to live alone, and drew a masterpiece like Destiny Note. This information made Yoshida's brain short-circuit for a while, but then, Yoshida's face showed a guilty look. I'm very sorry, Takahashi Makoto. I'm really sorry. Yoshida put down the draft in his hand, his face full of self-blame and guilt, and bowed to Takahashi Makoto very seriously to apologize. The reason why Yoshida apologized was because he learned about Takahashi Makoto's life experience. Maybe Takahashi Makoto behaved so strangely because he wanted to cover up the misfortune in his life. Yoshida, who had full imagination, thought so. Ah, I'm so hungry, my family, let's go. Let's go find glowing food. Takahashi Makoto finally felt hungry and completely ignored the food on the table. It was an invitation to the death party. Whether it was mortals or gods and demons, it was better not to get involved. By the way, you can drive, right, my beloved? Yes, I can. What do you want to eat? I'll treat you today, too, to celebrate the serialization of your comic. Yoshida put away the complicated expression on his face and smiled. This Takahashi Makoto is really a sensible child. Oh, Takahashi Makoto seemed to have heard something interesting and shouted excitedly, I've wanted to try that for a long time. An ominous premonition. Looking at Takahashi Makoto's cheerful and expectant expression, Yoshida suddenly felt something was wrong. His intuition told him that something incredible might happen next. He is really a worrying child. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 7. As usual, Hattori Yujiro came to the office early in the morning, but was startled by the pale Yoshida. Wasn't he very proud yesterday? Why is his expression a little strange today? Could it be that he didn't sign the cartoonist named Haoru Kuma? Yujiro looked at Yoshida with 3 points of sympathy and 7 points of regret. Although Hattori Yujiro has just entered Shonen Jump for less than a year, he is ambitious and has been eyeing the position of editor-in-chief. As for the cartoonist in charge, as a new editor, he has not yet discovered any potential stocks. Therefore, he has always been a little jealous of Yoshida's ability to become the editor-in-chief of Takahashi Makoto. But it's just a little bit. After all, those who choose to enter Shonen Jump are genuinely happy about comics. Yoshida, what's wrong with you? As colleagues, although there are sometimes conflicts and disputes at work, they get along well in private. Did something happen? Didn't you sign that Fengguanjin Kuma? Ah! Don't mention that damn kid to me. Bastard. As if stimulated by something, Yoshida suddenly jumped up from his seat, successfully attracted the attention of all colleagues, and roared loudly, what Takahashi Makoto, what Fengguanjin Kuma, as his editor-in-charge, it's really unlucky. Many colleagues looked at each other, all dragged into a Spartan state by Yoshida's roar. Even the editor-in-chief, who was always serious, was a little stunned, and couldn't figure out what happened. Well, the cause of everything was that Yoshida, who was full of sympathy, took Takahashi Makoto, who had a pitiful life, to dinner last night out of guilt, and Takahashi Makoto suggested taking a car, so the story happened. Stop at red lights and go at green lights, this is common sense that every driver knows, and Yoshida would definitely not break the law by running a red light. However, Yoshida never expected that with Takahashi Makoto in the car, driving a vehicle, a seemingly simple task, turned into a survival copy of the Grim Reaper. Seeing the green light start to flash, Yoshida estimated the distance and subconsciously slowed down the car, but Takahashi Makoto seemed to have no common sense at all. Seeing the green light flash, he actually shouted. Yoshida commented, "He deserved it, go, victory charge tornado." Yoshida, who was absolutely focused, was startled and stepped on the accelerator reflexively. At this moment, the Akina mountain god of cars Takumi followed the call of the Great Will and temporarily descended on Yoshida. Using superb cornering skills, he forcibly passed through 4 or 5 cars, scaring Yoshida into a cold sweat, while Takahashi Makoto complained a little dissatisfiedly, "Tisk, why didn't it fly? At this time, it should fly up and land at a high speed, this is not scientific." And then, there was nothing else, the police uncle taught Yoshida a loving lesson. As for Makoto Takahashi, the policeman bought a lollipop to comfort the frightened child. "It's not me who is wrong, it's Makoto Takahashi?" Yoshida was shouting and roaring in his heart. But looking at Makoto Takahashi licking the lollipop with a happy face, Yoshida couldn't open his mouth to scold him, so his internal injuries were suppressed. "Editor-in-Chief, maybe there is something I want to tell you." Yoshida hesitated again and again, but decided to talk to the editor-in-chief about Makoto Takahashi's second-year disease. No, it's about Makoto Takahashi's life experience. "I already know the situation, so what is your opinion?" After listening to Yoshida's narration, the editor frowned and pushed his glasses. The editor-in-chief did wear glasses, and he was not deliberately imitating Colonel Chu. "Now you are the editor in charge of Makoto Takahashi, I want to hear your opinion." "My opinion is..." After hesitating for a moment, Yoshida gritted his teeth and said his decision: "Don't disclose Makoto Takahashi's age. A first-year junior high school student can create comics of this level, which can only show that Makoto Takahashi is a genius. This news may have a good promoting effect on the sales of the magazine, but... The editor-in-chief frowned and did not express any opinion. "Go on, Yoshida, don't worry about anything." "Okay, editor-in-chief," Yoshida took a deep breath, "but I think it is very immoral to do this. A first-year junior high school student who lost his parents not long ago, then later, he created a classic comic. This gimmick may make Shonen Jump the headline of every newspaper tomorrow and make the magazine sell well, but in this way, a child is hurt? Takahashi Makoto's identity will be exposed one day, and it is impossible to keep it secret. But even so, we can hide it if we can. What we pursue is high-quality comics, not the gimmick of a genius with a pitiful life experience. Children like Takahashi Makoto." Yoshida paused for a moment, and Takahashi Makoto's neurotic behavior last night emerged in his mind. He couldn't help but sweat and gritted his teeth and continued, "Well, for this kind of cute children, perhaps what we adults can do is to build a solid wall for them before they grow up, although I don't know how much effect it can have. At least it can keep the children's pure world from being eroded and polluted by the adult world. Isn't this what we adults should do? Instead of fixing the frame of the painting in advance, do you want to wait until the painting is completed and then add the frame?" The editor looked at Yoshida, who looked excited, and he didn't know what he was thinking of. There was a dim light in the corner of his eyes, let alone the child. The same goes for adults. Maybe I was a little too anxious back then. Editor-in-chief, this is what I should do as the editor-in-chief of Makoto Takahashi. Yoshida looked at the silent editor-in-chief, a little anxious, and quickly said, "If Makoto Takahashi is exposed to the adult world too early, this approach is tantamount to killing the goose that lays the egg." "Well, Calm down, Yoshida. I'm not denying your proposal, it's just that I remembered some things. The editor looked at Yoshida, who was a little anxious, and a rare smile appeared on his cold face. I'll just follow what you said. Let's do it. The pen name is. The Phoenix Academy is so ferocious, Yoshida blurted out almost subconsciously. In his mind, Makoto Takahashi in a white coat appeared in his mind, with his hands on his hips and his face arrogantly shouting to the sky. He couldn't help but add, full of madness demon. The editor-in-chief looked at Yoshida, who looked embarrassed, and tried to comfort him. Yoshida, don't work too hard. It was definitely infected by that damn brat. Yoshida looked at the editor-in-chief, who was suppressing a smile, with a look of helplessness on his face and an extremely resentful heart. Just when I was about to explain something, my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was Makoto Takahashi, the source of the crime. Yoshida has deep resentment. Moxie, this is Master Jishin of the Phoenix Academy, one of my followers. Where are you? Makoto Takahashi's twitching voice came from the other side of the electric ring. P1, why haven't you arrived at the designated place yet? If the battle fails, you have to commit suicide. What is combat? What's going on with P1? Pawn, the pawn in chess, number 1. Yoshida was a little angry, without any of the high-spirited energy just now. Speaking of Takahashi Makoto, last night I remember, and you told me that I'll get the drawings for the first and second chapters later, so don't run around for me and just wait at home. It's not important. What's important is, I'm being hunted now. Makoto Takahashi gasped on the other end of the phone, sounding a little scared. I witnessed a murder before, and I just took advantage of the murderer's unpreparedness. Run away, now. Nani? Yoshida pressed the loudspeaker button in a panic, but he didn't pay attention. Instead, he yelled anxiously, murder incident. Takahashi Makoto, where are you now? I don't know. I was knocked unconscious before. When I woke up, I found. Makoto Takahashi hesitated for a long time, his voice even trembled. I found that I was actually in class in school, and my body turned into a child. Snap. With a dark face, Yoshida hung up the phone, looked at the snickering colleagues around him without saying a word, snorted, picked up the briefcase on the table, and walked out. Yujiro looked at Yoshida, who was walking out with a dark face. He couldn't suppress his smile anymore. He was lying on the table laughing wildly. Thinking about it, the entire editorial department seemed to have a chain and turned into a sea of joy. This kid. Yoshida, who was walking on the road, was completely blinded by anger, and quickly walked towards Takahashi Makoto's home. I must let him know that the world of adults, but it's a very serious world. The phone rang again, and he looked at the name displayed on the phone. This time Yoshida took a deep breath, pressed the answer button viciously, suppressed his anger, and asked coldly, what happened this time, Takahashi Makoto? This time, even if you say you became the Pirate King, or found the King's treasure, or became Sailor Moon, I won't believe it anymore. Makoto Takahashi on the other side of the phone seemed to be hit by Yoshida's cannons and fell into a dazed state. After being silent for a long time, he slowly spoke, my family, where are you going? Where to go? A dark smile appeared on Yoshida's face. Of course it's your home, and then get the drawing. By the way, I called your little female classmate before. Well, her name is Ogatarina, right? I asked her to go to your house to cook for you. Yoshida, who was waiting for Takahashi Makoto's drawing yesterday, secretly tasted a little of Ogatarina's dark cuisine while he was free, and seemed to have entered a half-dream state. When he came to his senses, Takahashi Makoto has finished the painting. It is already dark, and the pointer on the wall points to 9:15. You must know that the time when I arrived at Makoto Takahashi's house yesterday was only a little over 5 o'clock. When Yoshida said this, Takahashi Makoto over there seemed to be frightened and exclaimed, followed by a long silence. Just when Yoshida was secretly happy, Makoto Takahashi's voice sounded faintly on the phone again, "Do you want to die once? My family belongs to Yoshida." "Ha ha ha ha, you are 100 years too early to scare me, kid." Yoshida suddenly felt a little nostalgic, remembering that he seemed to scare others in this way back then. Sure enough, Makoto Takahashi was just a child. "You think you can scare me like this? I am a demon from hell." "Really? How about this move? Shoot him, sharpshooter." Makoto Takahashi's voice rang again, but not on the phone, but behind Yoshida. Before Yoshida had time to react, he felt a huge force coming from behind him, and then his whole body was knocked to the ground. "My beloved, this move is called Underworld Waning Moon Break. Demon God Phoenix Academy Fierce Exclusive Special Move." Makoto Takahashi laughed wildly, his white coat fluttering in the wind. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 8. There are no accidents in this world, there are only inevitabilities. Makoto Takahashi was lying on the bed, calmly speaking very philosophical words, so the cold I caught this time was definitely an arrangement of fate, and it was definitely not caused by catching a cold by chance. "Hey, I got it." Rina looked at Makoto Takahashi lying on the bed, with a helpless smile on her face. "It's just a cold, but, I'm sorry, Makoto-kun." "Did you draw circles and curse me?" Makoto Takahashi felt very lethargic due to a cold, and his tone sounded lazy. "Is this the reason why you apologized? No wonder I felt a chill coming from my back last night. Sure enough, the person who attacked me at that time was your familiar, right?" "No, the reason I'm apologizing is..." Rina tilted her head and showed a cute smile. "I always thought that idiots wouldn't catch colds, but now Chang-kun has a cold. I didn't expect to lie to a child like this. I will believe it too." Takahashi Makoto no longer looked at Rina, but stared at the ceiling, silent, as if he was brewing something. "Makoto-kun? Are you angry?" Rina looked at Makoto Takahashi, who had been silent for a long time, and asked uneasily. "Humph hum, cough cough cough." Makoto Takahashi suddenly coughed violently, but even so, Makoto Takahashi still struggled and shouted to Rina, "Who are you? You are not Rina at all. Another world evil spirit, how dare you take over Rina's body? Is it true that the magic barrier was weakened by the injury, giving you an opportunity? So Chang-kun is an idiot." Rina looked at Makoto Takahashi, who turned his head angrily. Her face slowly calmed down, and then turned into a weird smile. "Hey, Chang-kun, you have a good rest first. Let's go cook something for you. Damn it, that guy Yoshida actually dares to betray the owner. It's all because of him that Rina comes here more and more frequently." Makoto Takahashi looked resentful. "Is that the end of it? The greatest in the world sage, after all, can't he defeat the existence of dark cuisine? Take a good rest when you are sick, Makoto-kun. Really, how will you live like this in the future?" Rina was wearing an apron and complained angrily, but despite her words, Rina still covered Takahashi Makoto's quilt. Extremely attentive. "Moxie Moxie, this is the world after death. You have a new text message." The phone rang. Makoto Takahashi didn't even look at who it was. His aura was in full swing. "If you have any need for death business, to process, please press third." On the other side, Takahashi Makoto didn't hear what he said at all, maybe he completely ignored it. "Xiao Zheng is ranked 3rd. Hey, Phoenix Academy." At this time, hanging up the phone decisively is the correct way to communicate. Makoto Takahashi turned off his cell phone and closed his eyes, trying to sleep to escape the test from Gaia, Rina's dark cuisine, Manchu banquet. "By the way, was it my family member Yoshida who made the call earlier?" Takahashi Makoto shook his head silently. "Well, it must be some forgotten low-class female Matari. Closing his eyes, Makoto Takahashi connected to the search engine in his mind. Speaking of which, this thing is really convenient sometimes. For example, other cartoonists, after imagining a story, still have to draw drafts and storyboards, but Makoto Takahashi does not need it at all. This guy plagiarizes the original drawings without restraint, and there is no pressure at all. Sure enough, I copied the original work without being accused of infringement and copied it. The parallel world is the most lovely, Makoto Takahashi sighed, turning his head to glance at the things Rina left on the table before leaving, tears streaming down his face. Is this an equivalent exchange of living in a parallel world? Plagiarizing comics is more fun than copying homework on the last day of summer vacation. Copying homework may lead to failure in the exam and a miserable life in the future, but plagiarizing comics, not only can you make money, but you can also avoid practicing the student profession again. I really like it. Of course, in exchange, the price you pay is to face the dark cuisine of hell every day. Ah, it's so boring. The injury is too serious. I need to heal my demons. Makoto Takahashi rolled on the bed. God, your most devout believer, I pray to you sincerely and love your people, redeem your child. Essay, come on, the messenger you sent, come and help me heal the demon, it seems to be the common name in the world. The doorbell rang suddenly, followed by a violent knock on the door. So fast? There was a look of surprise on Takahashi Makoto's face, and then he knelt on the ground, clasped his hands together, and transformed into the most devout believer. O gracious God, I, Takahashi Makoto, hereby swear to you with my soul. Takahashi, Phoenix Institute, I heard that you are sick. I am Yoshida, open the door quickly, I will take you to the hospital, Yoshida shouted outside the door. Takahashi Makoto's expression was dull, as if he had been struck by petrification magic, and then he gritted his teeth and continued to read, I, Takahashi Makoto, hereby swear to you with my soul, God, it is an unforgivable sin to fool innocent people. In this life, there is no conflict between the forces, and we will fight to the death. The path of rebellion is to destroy the world and prove the truth by killing the gods. As for Editor-in-Chief Yoshida of God's Lackey, haha, you should be petrified, weathered and frozen outside for 100 or 200 years. In the end, Yoshida entered Takahashi Makoto's barrier, because Yoshida mastered Takahashi Makoto's weakness, his natural enemy Rina. Oh, this episode is so exciting. It's a pity for the FBI, they were already aware of it, but they were still killed in the end. And Naomi Misara, they were just a little bit away. As an editor, Yoshida naturally has the right to preview the comics. As for why he came to see Takahashi Makoto, Yoshida, who was immersed in the comics, seemed to have completely forgotten. By the way, what do you want, low-level servant? Takahashi Makoto looked at Yoshida with a dark face and was very unhappy. The reason, it's dinner time now, and a little loli with twin ponytails is happily busy in the kitchen. I heard that you are sick, so I came to see you. And congratulations on your comics. The reader survey results of the first and second episodes are both third. Yoshida looked at Takahashi Makoto's unhappy expression and suddenly felt happy. This kid will have a day. Phoenix Court? What's the matter with this name? Takahashi Makoto finally realized that Yoshida's name for him was a bit weird. It seems that he called him like this when he knocked on the door before, right? The fact that you are Makoto Takahashi, the editorial department has decided to keep it secret. When Yoshida mentioned this, he suddenly remembered that this was the result of a previous discussion with the editor-in-chief. After all, you are still studying, what does your expression mean? What is Howin? Makoto Takahashi pointed to the first page of Destiny Note. Look carefully, it's Howin Kuma, don't forget Kuma. Okay Kuma, Yoshida answered quickly this time, but it made Makoto Takahashi so depressed that he wanted to chop him. I am Howin Kuma, a demon god full of madness. Alas, I always feel weird without a white coat. Takahashi Makoto secretly glanced at the little loli who was cooking, and immediately looked at Yoshida with an angry look. Why did she come here? Because how Winkuma you are sick, Yoshida said seriously. As an editor, you naturally have to consider the cartoonists, right? You have to eat when you are sick, right? But I am a single man and I can't cook, and it's not good to bring a stranger to your home, so I called Rina-chan. Rina-chan? Who is that? Takahashi Makoto knew who Yoshida was talking about, but he still pretended to be stupid. Hearing Yoshida calling Rina like this, Takahashi Makoto suddenly felt possessed. The possessed soul seemed to be a species called Minotaur, prelude to NTR. Huh? Didn't you promise to be together forever and live together? Yoshida said the thundering words with a serious face. Didn't you tell me last time that after eating Rina-chan's loving cooking, you could no longer eat food from the human world? Huh? What I meant was... Takahashi Makoto was suddenly stunned. What's going on? Speaking of which, Yoshida, isn't premature love illegal? Are you sure there is any country that defines premature love as illegal? Are you asking the teacher to invite your parents? Have you been single for too long and assumed that a man and a woman you see are a couple? What about the long-lost brother and sister? Have you ever considered their feelings? Makoto is really dishonest. Rina-chan put the last dish, unknown substance, on the table, her face flushed. Eat quickly, the food will not taste good if it gets cold. This is unscientific. Aren't girls with twin ponytails supposed to be tsunderies? No, 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 it's not important. By the way, Rina, you completely agreed to what Yoshida said before. What's going on? Is the end of the world coming? Your servant. Takahashi Makoto felt a chill when he was stared at by Rina with stars in her eyes. He decided that he couldn't beat Rina even with his Chuyuniberi force field, so he decisively changed his target of attack. I wish you and your right hand a lifetime of love and longevity. Puff. Yoshida just laughed happily with a dark look on his face, but after hearing Takahashi Makoto's curse, he immediately sprayed tea all over the table. Takahashi Makoto, may I ask, are you really a first-year junior high school student? My dependent, what do you think? The school system of RB is divided into 3 semesters each school year. The first semester is from April to August, the second semester is from September to December, and the third semester is from January to March. And now it is February, alas. Mortals are so ignorant and stupid, can't they really follow the footsteps of the demon god? Takahashi Makoto said, while smiling and peeking at the food on the table. It must be said that Yoshida's spit of water just now was too powerful, killing the dark cuisine beast in seconds, and successfully completing the team copy Rina dark cuisine without casualties. Yoshida, from today on, you will once again be under my command, become my dependent, and fight for the advent of the dark world for the rest of your life. Hey, Makoto, that. Rina stammered, successfully attracting the 2 people who were communicating. Makoto, do you like to eat sweets? Like chocolate, and chocolate. Takahashi Makoto was stunned at first, then turned to look at the work schedule on the wall, and the corners of his mouth twitched a little. The day after tomorrow, it seems to be February 14th, a legendary war mourning day. I like it, but... Takahashi Makoto took a deep breath. The day after tomorrow, yes, that is the day when the FFF group Holy War begins, the most important war in our lives. So, explode and smash, reality. The mad demon, Phoenix Court Kuma is here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 9. Festival, This is a holy day, this is an important festival, this is a day when couples break up after showing off their love. Hey, yes, this is the holy war of FFF Group Day. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Takahashi Makoto arrived at the door of Yui Society early in the morning, still wearing a stylish white coat, holding a thick stack of drawings in his hand, and carrying a large backpack. He looked like he was going on a long trip. This is basically the situation. Makoto Takahashi handed the thick sketch in his hand to Yoshida. My family, after this holy war, I don't know if I can work with you again, but I have always wanted to work with you. Just say thank you for taking care of me these days. Yoshida was completely speechless. He grabbed Makoto Takahashi, who turned around and was about to slip away, and yelled, Takahashi Makoto, what are you going to do? As a student, you skip class so confidently. I feel sad for your teacher. My beloved, are you going to send me to hell? Makoto Takahashi pointed to the drawing in Yoshida's hand. Today is not the time for class, let's discuss comics. Yoshida is definitely a professional editor, so when Makoto Takahashi mentioned the comics, Yoshida could no longer find any reason to object, so he had no choice but to take the drawings and capture Makoto Takahashi, who wanted to escape secretly. The location of this discussion finally changed the map. It was no longer Takahashi Makoto's house, but in a cafe next to Yui Society. Is this the one who said he wanted to discuss comics? Huh. Yoshida pinched Takahashi Makoto's face hard, with a look of resentment on his face. Look at these things you gave me, what are they? They are all text, not even one picture, there are no drawings. Is this what you call a comic sketch? I believe you are so sweet. The drawings are in the backpack. Makoto Takahashi rubbed his red and swollen cheeks and looked at Yoshida with an unhappy face. My familiar, of the ones I just showed you, which one do you think is suitable for the next manga? Next comic? Yoshida was stunned at first, and then he didn't understand. Isn't Destiny Note serialized very well? Why do you start thinking about the next comic? Don't tell me that you can't think of the following plot. Oh, this reason is not scientific at all. I'm worried that this manga will be banned and the world will be destroyed because of it, Makoto Takahashi said with a serious face. Yes, Makoto Takahashi is worried about the serialization of Destiny Note. Although the name has been changed, Makoto Takahashi clearly remembers that this comic was completely banned in his previous life. Although we live in a parallel world, who knows whether history will repeat itself again? You know, although this is Dongjo, it belongs to Central Continent. If he is really banned, it will probably be even more miserable than in his previous life. Banned? Is this your worry? After listening to Takahashi Makoto express his concerns, Yoshida did not give a positive answer. Of course, Yoshida completely ignored the statement about the destruction of the world. But the ban? Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi with a look of shock in his eyes. These thoughts, maybe this kid doesn't know anything, but he behaves a little weird because he is too smart. Yoshida once again thought about a lot of things, but it made Takahashi Makoto a little anxious. Now, these thoughts, I can tell you very seriously. Yoshida's tone became a little serious. You really think too much. Ha ha ha. Huh, Makoto Takahashi was stunned at first, and then looked at Yoshida, who was thinking wildly, and suddenly became very angry, but he was also a little curious as to why this comic would not be banned in this world. Manga is not a textbook, as long as the comics are interesting. Yoshida's sentence is not original, but quotes the editor's original words. The issues you are worried about are not issues that a cartoonist should consider. Alas. Although I am certain that the problem you are worried about will never happen, but you are too young, and there are some things that I cannot tell you now. Looking at Takahashi Makoto's confused look, Yoshida looked confused and couldn't tell this kid, whether it's Shoujo, Dongjo, or some restricted rated movies with mosaic. In short, These things are not something you, a first-year junior high school student, should consider, nor even me, an editor, should be considered. Oh, then I feel a lot more relieved. Makoto Takahashi breathed a long sigh of relief and rolled his eyes, but I'm still a little worried, but it doesn't matter. There is a second layer of defensive barrier. If we really go, let's talk about that step later. Okay, then the discussion is over, I should go back to work. Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi's evasive eyes, and a smirk appeared on his face, but before that, I have to send you back to school. My beloved, you are so sweet. Makoto Takahashi knew that he could not hide, so he decided to implement the second set of tactics and took out a stack of drawings from his backpack. Since you said you would not be banned, so what do you think about this? Lelich of the Rebellion. Looking at the title, Yoshida frowned a little. Looking at the name, he knew something about the manga. It should be a story about rebellious teenagers, but this seems to be inconsistent with the theme of Shonen Jump. Speaking of Takahashi, has Makoto actually watched Shonen Jump? The story told in this comic is actually the story of a sister-controlling prince who, in order to create a harmonious and stable world for his sister, launched a war, destroyed the world and then created the world. Looking at the story introduction, the corner of Yoshida's mouth twitched a little, and his eyes looking at Makoto Takahashi suddenly became suspicious. How dark is this brat? Whether it's the previous Destiny Note or this Lelich of the Rebellion, why are the protagonists in the story a little crazy? One is a genius boy who kills criminals crazily in order to clean up the world, the other is even more crazy, just to protect his sister, and then launch a world-class war. Wait, this kind of crazy setting of the protagonist seems to have been seen somewhere? Yoshida was a little confused. It was obviously his first time contacting them, but why did the characters of these protagonists have an indescribable sense of familiarity? How is it? This story is outstanding, isn't it? Makoto Takahashi drank the coffee on the table in one gulp and wiped his mouth with his sleeves. Very unhygienic behavior, children should not imitate it. My dependents, you no need to answer, your eyes have already told me. Ha ha ha, I am the demon god of the Phoenix Academy, who created this world. Humble mortals, tremble. Sure enough, it's you, Makoto Takahashi. Yoshida slapped his head suddenly, cursing himself for being confused. There is no doubt that the protagonists of these comics are completely based on Makoto Takahashi himself. No matter how I look at these protagonists, I feel that they are based on you. My home is where my heart is, and the person in the painting is me, and I am the person in the painting. Makoto Takahashi suddenly sent an invitation to Yoshida to form a team. My family, let us join hands to create a world without crime and without crime. The world of war. Do you want to destroy this world? Yoshida asked with some uncertainty. Of course, Yoshida's question triggered Takahashi Makoto's true and secondary king unparalleled skill. Can't you see? This world is decaying and degenerating. The weak are treated unfairly, and the strong do not protect the weak, but join the team that bullies the weak. This world is hopeless, and we want to change it in this world. The only thing we can do is to launch a war, completely destroy this world, and then rebuild a new world. In the new world, the weak will no longer be bullied, and there will no longer be crimes. And I will become a righteous partner and become the god of the new world. Look at the uncle over there. It's clearly written on the wall that no smoking is allowed, but he still smokes there as if there is no one else around. And the auntie, who is obviously grumpy due to the onset of menopause, curses the waiters here. Take it out, look at the waiter again, it's obviously cheap instant coffee, but he said it is more expensive Blue Mountain coffee. Takahashi Saichuji's aura was fully activated, and he started to taunt and pull monsters everywhere without thinking about life and death. This world is full of lies, full of deceit, and the strong bully the weak. My beloved, tell me, does such a world still have any meaning? Or is it because of the dirty lifestyle of you adults that has polluted the entire world? The world needs a hero to stand up and lead the weak to fight back. This world needs change, and humans who have lost their faith need new gods. And I. Under the mocking and resentful eyes of the people around him, Takahashi Makoto climbed onto the table and declared loudly, "The Phoenix Academy is fierce, the hero called by the times, will lead the world on the road to change, become the god of the new world." Yoshida had already covered his eyes and did not dare to look. Facing the unfriendly glances around him, Yoshida really wanted to say, "I really don't know this twitchy kid." This guest, a waitress, walked up to Takahashi Makoto with a smile, her voice full of chill, "Please don't do this to disturb other people. This will trouble us very much." Without saying a word, Yoshida put the money on the table, took Takahashi Makoto's collar, and escaped from the cafe. According to people in the editorial department, Yoshida never came to this cafe again. "My beloved, what are you going to do? Am I wrong?" Takahashi-chan tugged on his collar, with a fanatical look on his face. "Is there still a need for this world to exist? It should have been destroyed long ago." "Already? That's really good." Yoshida had a strange expression on his face. Although he was smiling, Takahashi Makoto instinctively sensed the danger and wanted to run away, but was caught by Yoshida. "Then as a reward, I have something to ask for. Give it to you." "My beloved, do you think so too? It's really reliable." Makoto Takahashi couldn't escape because he was tightly held by Yoshida. He was about to say something when he heard a clear voice. "Ah! Sure enough, you are here, Chen-kun." Could this familiar voice be? "Is it really you? The third magician, the sage among sages, the most powerful existence among the great monsters, the blade of despair Uchiha Rina." Makoto Takahashi glared at Yoshida angrily. Then he turned around and saw Rina with a happy face, holding a heart-shaped box in her hand. Makoto Takahashi's eyes were full of despair. "There is also the most powerful killing weapon, Hell's dark cuisine chocolate that can destroy the world in one blow." "Rina, are you going to? This is, for, Makoto-kun." Rina was stared at by Takahashi Makoto, feeling a little embarrassed, and her speech became a little stuttering, and her voice became smaller and smaller. "It's not about love. Arrogant, 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 arrogant." Takahashi Makoto was full of despair before, but at this moment he suddenly became very excited. Twin tails really need to be arrogant. "Rina, this expression is great. My life is already fulfilling, and I have no regrets in this life, so chocolate and the like, I won't." Takahashi Makoto refused to accept the chocolate, but his mouth was blocked before he finished speaking. It was not Rina's cherry lips or fingers, but the piece of chocolate in her hand that exuded an ominous smell. This is the person who really destroyed the world. This was the last thought of Takahashi Makoto before he fainted. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Male. Chapter 10. Ah, what a misfortune. Makoto Takahashi, who had just entered the second grade of junior high school, looked at his new classmate and immediately shouted the slogan of a pickup artist. "The twin-tailed ponytail in front of me has gradually begun to look like a beauty. If you take a closer look, isn't it Rina who stopped Makoto Takahashi from destroying the world more than half a month ago?" Makoto Takahashi said that we can tolerate being in the same school and being in the same class, but, things like sitting at the same table must not be tolerated. Please give me some advice in the future, Makoto-kun." Just like Sun Wukong turned into a Super Saiyan when he was angry, Rina, who was still a little arrogant a few days ago, seems to have broken through some kind of bottleneck and now becomes more generous. It's great in every way. In all aspects, it means. Why does Takahashi have such an ominous premonition? Makoto Takahashi expressed that he was very confused. Although the 13-year-old Lolita has the potential to evolve into a beautiful girl, Why does she feel like she is getting closer to the path of the scumbag Makoto? Makoto-kun is really annoying. Rina's face was a little blushing. Obviously, you have obviously eaten, my, chocolate. Huh? Eat you? When did it happen? Rina said the last few words in a very low voice. Makoto Takahashi didn't hear it at all and was completely shocked. But Rina's shy expression is really. That expression is great, Tsundere Rina. Makoto-kun, you big idiot. Rina angrily threw the book in her hand at Takahashi Makoto, then turned her head and ignored Takahashi Makoto again. I really don't know what to say. Makoto Takahashi rubbed his head unhappily, turned to look at the classmates watching the show, and finally fixed his eyes on a certain blue-haired boy. Looking at the familiar dull hair, Gao Xiao Cheng greeted him friendly. Hey, Landai, long time no see. Have you finally ruled the other world? The boy known as Landai had an ugly expression on his face, his mouth twitched, and he immediately turned his head to one side without any intention of saying hello. Landai? He. Several girls around him chuckled softly, looking at the red-faced Landai classmate from time to time. Landai? Is there such a surname? Rina asked with some confusion, then looked at the blue-haired boy and showed a friendly smile. Hello, Landai, my name is Ogata Rina. Makoto Takahashi's assistant. Makoto Takahashi took the words without hesitation, and then complained with some regret, although you are also Tsundere, it's a pity that you are not Christina, the existence of my soul. The fierce assistant of the Phoenix Academy must be Christina. This is truth, this is justice, this is Steins Gate's choice, and this is God's will. I'm not Christina. Rina's face was full of anger, and her little face was very cute with her pink face. I'm not a blue idiot. The blue-haired boy finally couldn't help roaring angrily, what a blue idiot. Please call me by my name. Sincerity is the highest, sincerity is the highest. But Makoto Takahashi looked a little embarrassed. Don't you have blue hair and a bunch of stupid hairs on your head? The name Landai is an existence that can conquer the world. You have to give it up such a high-end and classy name. Your mother will definitely be sad, Landai. Makoto-kun, do you know Makoto-san? Rina tilted her head and asked with some confusion as she watched the furious Makoto pull Takahashi Makoto's face hard. This is the beginning of the turn of fate, this is a fateful encounter, this is the choice of Steins Gate. Needless to say, you know who this answer is. Ah, this is the biggest misfortune in my life. De Mao shook his head. He seemed to have thought of something, and his face was a little gloomy. The highest understanding between Takahashi Makoto and sincerity happened a long time ago. At that time, Takahashi Makoto was not yet a middle school student, had not yet traveled through time, and was still an innocent little Shota. Oh, your uncle is actually the cartoonist, Taro Kawaguchi, the cartoonist who drew Legend of Superheroes. How awesome! The young Makoto Takahashi was still a cute little Shota when he was not in the second grade of middle school. Looking at the little boy in front of him who was about the same age as himself, with an expression of admiration. Well, it's okay, the most sincere person in the young Shota era rubbed his nose, unable to hide his pride. I will also become a cartoonist in the future, for sure. Me too, because I also like to draw, and I will also become a cartoonist in the future. The young Makoto Takahashi looked at the confident and sincere Supreme, with a look of envy on his face, and shouted out in comparison. Such a slogan! Haha, two kids, please come on. A man in his 30s wearing glasses showed a kind smile on his face. He stopped the brush in his hand and wiped the sweat on his face with the towel wrapped around his neck. Cartoonist is a gambling profession. You too, hee, come on. This is a fragment in Makoto Takahashi's memory. If he hadn't seen the most sincere thing today, I'm afraid Makoto Takahashi wouldn't have been able to remember this at all. But the name Sincerity Supreme is so familiar, as if I've heard it somewhere. No way. The Bakuman King, the Dream Eater, the most sincere, Takagi Akito. Certain memory fragments suddenly flashed through Takahashi Makoto's mind as if they were stimulated, causing Takahashi Makoto's face to turn pale instantly. This joke has gone a bit too far. Wait, something seems wrong. Makoto Takahashi thought about it carefully. Although the most sincere person had an uncle who drew comics, Makoto Takahashi remembered clearly that if it was really the world of Dream Eaters, then the masterpiece comics in this world should not be so slow and so few. Needless to say, at least Gintama, Makoto Takahashi's favorite in his previous life, seems to have never appeared in this world. Cheng-kun, are you okay? Seeing Takahashi Cheng's face pale, he asked with some worry. I'm going out to make a phone call. Makoto Takahashi rarely looked serious. I want to confirm the nature of this world, and the reality of existence. What's wrong with that guy? Sincerity Supreme was a little confused and looked at Rina with a blank look on his face. Speaking of what happened in these years, why does it feel like Takahashi Makoto has become a little strange? Because, Cheng-kun. Rina frowned a little, looked at the back of Takahashi Cheng who left in a hurry, and said rather uncomfortably, his parents have passed away. Takahashi Makoto hadn't called yet, but Yoshida was the first to call. Takahashi Makoto hesitated for a long time holding the phone, but decided to answer the call. This time Xiao Zheng is fourth, down one place. Although the ranking has dropped, this level of decline will not affect the serialization issue at all. Yoshida's tone on the phone is still the same as usual. The good news is, I have the opportunity to get the masthead color page in the next issue. Hey, my family. Makoto Takahashi was not happy because of the good news brought by Yoshida, and his voice sounded a little deeper. I have a question I want to ask clearly. A real man, Yoshida was a little surprised, because although Takahashi Makoto usually behaves a little convulsively, he has always been full of energy. This was the first time he heard such a depressed and confused tone. Makoto Takahashi was silent on the phone for a long time, his voice trembling a little. Well, what are the new comics in the top 20? Tell me their names and authors. This is the first time you care about this, is it really okay? Yoshida became even more confused. Wait a minute, let me see first. There is. Listening to Yoshida's narration, Takahashi Makoto said nothing and listened carefully. He had never heard of many comics. This is natural. Although many comics were serialized in Shonen Jump in the previous life, not all of them were well known in China. The different languages led to their limitations. But this world is different. East continent is part of central continent. The degree of use of island country languages in central continent is wider than that of English in the previous life. The number of people in central continent who can understand the island country languages is close to 2/3 of the total population. As expected. Hearing a familiar name, Takahashi Makoto let out a long sigh and hung up the phone. Looking at the noisy classmates in the corridor, Takahashi Makoto couldn't laugh or cry. The conjecture that I traveled to a certain anime world is indeed wrong. Should I be happy? Or should I feel unfortunate? Among the names reported by Yoshida, a name familiar to Makoto Takahashi appeared, Gintama. The author is Sarakichi. What does this mean? A nasty coincidence. Makoto Takahashi didn't know, but he felt really speechless when he heard it. What on earth is going on in this world? It's the world of Dream Eaters, right? The protagonist, the most sincere, has appeared, so can Akito Takagi be far behind? But according to the background setting in the world of Dream Eaters, sorry about the time, when the Akan Konoha Dream duo became famous, One Piece, Gintama, and so on were already very popular. How could it be like now, which only appeared for a while? This is unscientific. Etc. What am I struggling with? Is there anything to worry about? Makoto Takahashi suddenly thought of something and laughed wildly. It doesn't matter what the world is like. Now that you are here, just live the way you want. I am who is it? I am a fierce and crazy cartoonist from the Phoenix Academy. Maybe this is why I came to this world. I didn't choose the world, but the world chose me. Makoto Takahashi, who was in full swing as a junior high school student, had an expression of I am the savior on his face. He walked into the teacher with a wild smile, and there was no longer a confused look in his eyes. Speaking of which, I'm such an idiot. Makoto Takahashi just sat down with a look of regret on his face. Why don't I draw those masterpiece level comics that haven't appeared first? Ah, human beings are such creatures. It's really hopelessly stupid. Don't you think so, Landai? So my name is not Landai, but the one with the highest sincerity. The highest sincerity went crazy. Why does this guy Makoto Takahashi feel like he has become a completely different person? Do you feel like I've become another person? Makoto Takahashi turned on his mind-reading ability and stared at the most sincere person without a trace of a smile on his face. The serious look in his eyes made Zhenshao unconsciously step back and swallow with some difficulty. That's necessary. A bright smile suddenly appeared on Takahashi Makoto's face, god-level acting, and he declared loudly, not caring about the eyes of everyone, because, I have come into contact with the essence of this world and mastered it. The source of this world, at this moment, is no longer God, but the whole world.